And here we are getting a trend reversal, and Bitcoin has signaled that with this weekly RSI breakout. This is one of the most reliable signals, in my opinion, ever. And we've used it many times. Every time this signal has showed up, we talked about it on this channel, and it was a 100% hit rate. It worked every single time. So what can we expect with this weekly RSI breakout for Bitcoin and liquidity returning to the markets? All of this and more in today's video. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Svensson. Today is January 6th. It is Tuesday. It is the beginning of a new year. And what we're seeing right now in the short term for things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, we're seeing the new year effect. And that is what I discussed on Twitter on December 31st. It's a seasonal market anomaly in which stocks, especially small cap and beaten down names, tend to rise around the turn of the year, most notably known as the January effect. And guys, this is straight out of the textbook. And is it a coincidence that on the new year, right at the beginning of 2026, on day one, we began a massive run? Ethereum going from 2,900 up to 3,300. Bitcoin also from that day, the first day of the year, running from 88,000 all the way to 94.7 thousand. This move, having started exactly on the new year, it seems very intentional. Like the bulls are making a statement. The market has been so beaten down across the board, right? Bitcoin is actually doing very well in comparison to the rest of the market. But generally speaking, the market has been so beaten down going into this new year. The sellers were exhausted. And the only way that I can describe the sentiment that we've had over the past month or two before today was total depression, some anger, but definitely depression. There hasn't been panic. There hasn't been capitulation over the past couple months. It has been pure depression. And so logically, the next step is a move into disbelief. Already, the amount of people that are saying this exact sentence, "this is a suckers rally," is overwhelming, right? A lot of people gave up into this move down. They sold their bags. They said, "I'm never coming back." And now, right as the new year begins, they look at the charts and they go, what's going on? A lot of people are off sides now, right? The market itself is off sides. People are underexposed. That's how the price got here, right? That process of becoming less and less exposed is what pushed the price down. And here we are getting a trend reversal. And Bitcoin has signaled that with this weekly RSI breakout. This is one of the most reliable signals, in my opinion, ever. And we've used it many times. Every time this signal has showed up, we talked about it on this channel, and it was a 100% hit rate. It worked every single time. Starting back in 2022, this was the major one that we had for the entire bull and bear market, this huge downtrend on the weekly RSI. That signal was the signal we used on this channel to call the change in trend, to call for expansion. And we used it time and time again throughout the whole run. And here we have Bitcoin with an RSI that has touched 35, which is actually really close to the FTX capitulation levels. Think about that. The RSI reached levels that were similar to the FTX capitulation. And going back in time, 35 on the RSI, that was similar to COVID, right? COVID, we were sitting at those levels. Going back in time, at the end of 2018, we were sitting down at those levels. So the RSI has reset to a very extreme degree. And now we're getting the weekly RSI breakout signal. There's a lot of reasons to believe that the price is seeing a bullish reversal right now. And the Federal Reserve balance sheet is now seeing expansion for the first time in really 4 years. So things are definitely a lot different, I think, than people thought. The S&P has been performing extremely well while the Fed has been tightening. Bitcoin has been performing extremely well overall since the Fed's been tightening. But if you look at things like the Russell 2000 low cap stocks, it looks a lot like the Ethereum chart, actually. You know, the Fed balance sheet up on the top. Since the Fed began tightening, there was no major breakout. In fact, the Russell 2000, the low cap stock index, dumped all the way down to 2018 levels, just like Ethereum did at the same exact time that Ethereum did. So Wall Street has now come onto the scene here in crypto, and it seems like they're treating low cap assets just like they're treating low cap stocks, right? When you look at the Russell, it's had a quicker recovery right? It's ahead of the game right now. But when you look at the Russell and you compare it from COVID to middle of 2025 and you just flip over to Ethereum, right? When you look at Ethereum's chart and you see that high we made in 2022 bull market, came down, ran up near the high and pulled all the way down towards 2018 levels. Well, that is exactly what the Russell 2000 did as well, the low cap stock index. Same exact structure with a retest of that 2018 level right there. Same thing. And now the Russell has begun breaking out. Of course, Ethereum is behind the Russell, right? It's not quite at the highs yet, but in my opinion, the Russell is just a leading signal for altcoins. It's a leading signal for how Wall Street is treating and regarding low cap assets, which means that right now Ethereum is looking like it's at a really good opportunity zone. You know, why is it that Ethereum is lagging behind the Russell on this move? Well, it's probably because we just had the largest liquidation event in crypto history take place in October, which set off a cascading domino effect that sort of set the market back, right? While the Russell didn't have that event, that didn't affect, obviously, that had nothing to do with stocks. It was all crypto. So crypto had an extra sort of, extra damage done to it. But you guys get the point. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering, well, Kev, what about the 4-year cycle? What about the 80th week post having cycle profit model? What about all that stuff? The Fed balance sheet is really what's driving a lot of these past bull cycles, right? The 4-year cycle theory, or the 4-year cycle, is really just, it's not a magic number. It's not just a magical number. It's based on global liquidity, the Fed balance sheet, and the business cycle. And of course, various other things as well. So if you take a look at all the global central bank, the top central bank balance sheets, right? Now we go over here, we had 4 years of QT, Europe, US, China's flat, Japan's flattened down. I mean, everything was contracting. Now it's shifting, right? It's coming back up. So if the global liquidity cycle was shifted based on the doubling of the money supply after COVID, requiring prolonged tightening, then a shift back up at a different point in time, well, that can change the cycle, because again, the 4-year cycle is based on this, right? So this is what we need to look at. A lot of people think that it's just a number. It's not just the 4-year cycle is not just a number, guys. It's based on something. And so as long as we're seeing central bank balance sheets rising globally, well, it can only really be positive unless there's a crisis or something, right? It can really only be a positive thing. And this is where people are going to say, wait, Kev, you're saying that there's going to be an extended bull market? Well, guys, let me ask you something. Has it felt like a bull market at all? No, it's actually been an extended bear market. That's what we actually had. It was an extended bear cycle, right? Bitcoin top stocks, they did fine. But the others, the low cap assets, right? The low cap altcoins, the low cap stocks, they had an extended bear cycle. That's what it actually, that was actually the result. So I'm not predicting an extended bull market. I'm predicting that we're finally going to enter a more bullish market for all the assets that have had an extended bear market. So there's a difference between those two things, guys. Now, will it extend Bitcoin's bull market, right? Will Bitcoin's bull market be lengthened by this? It's hard for me to say. I think Bitcoin has played out a lot of its upside for the cycle. I could see the price going higher at some point, regardless of how Bitcoin plays. As long as Bitcoin is somewhat bullish and stable, then the beaten down names can have a return. I want to see Bitcoin stabilize and, maintain these levels at the very least. I mean, of course, it'd be great if Bitcoin just went, 200,000 or something, right? That'd be great. But at the very least, Bitcoin should just remain stable and slightly bullish, even if that just means sideways action. The beaten down names, we'll call them, the low cap stocks, low cap altcoins, they can have huge runs with much higher lows against Bitcoin's sideways trend, right? Like these lows would match up, but there would be higher lows when you do a direct comparison. Right? A stronger uptrend versus a more sideways market for Bitcoin. I think that's probably the more likely outcome, but we will see. I mean, hopefully I'm pleasantly surprised and Bitcoin just rips straight up and, everything's great from that perspective. So that's what I want you guys to keep in mind. Things have definitely changed a lot in this cycle. This cycle has felt way different than most cycles. Is it just a coincidence that we've had a 4-year downtrend for altcoin dominance? No, it's based on the central banks, right? So we had QT starting, and since then it's just been downhill. now QT is ending. And logically, given that the sentiment for altcoins is so devastated, it's so destroyed, people just, they've just run away from the market. They just want to forget about it. Well, that presents maximum opportunity. Maximum opportunity comes when there is depression. That's maximum opportunity, is when sentiment is its worst. When everyone tells you this is, you're crazy, you're an idiot, blah, 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 right? That is where you buy, right? Pretty much last week. And of course, a lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to go, oh, they're going to have all these ideas. They're going to comment below all these negative things. But that is exactly what I expect. That is exactly almost the point. Anger, depression, maximum opportunity, others dominance coming to the end, or altcoin dominance coming to the end of this falling wedge as QT ends, as the Fed balance sheet begins to expand. It looks like we have a really good setup for alts in 2026. And I think what people don't realize as well is that we have been in Ethereum season since April of this, or the last year, April of 2025. Ethereum season began in April of 2025. Ethereum is up, I think, more than 100% more than Bitcoin since April. So Ethereum season started a long time ago, but it's been like a stealth Ethereum season. It's been a slow creep, not too noticeable yet because, well, Ethereum, of course, didn't have very good performance prior to that. But this is my point. When you see the altcoins, just like Ethereum, was so depressed, it was so low, it's not going to be very difficult for Ethereum to Bitcoin pair to push higher. It's not going to be difficult for Bitcoin dominance to fall. It'd be pretty easy. I just see a fantastic opportunity here for Ethereum, for the altcoins, for a major expansion to go directly against everybody's expectation, as always, as usual, right? Nobody thinks that very little people think that this idea is rational, or that, a lot of people think it's crazy, but that's usually means you're on the right side of the market. And I know a lot of people are going to have opinions on me talking about alts and whatever, but I'm just doing my job. I'm just talking about where the opportunity currently lies. Since April, Bitcoin's up 20%. Today, there's been many altcoins that went up 20, 50, 100 or more percent today, just today, right? So there's a huge, huge opportunity in other areas of the market. And of course, and yes, the altcoins have performed terribly for the past 4 years, but you got to reverse your thinking for a moment. It could mean that the opportunity is better than it's ever been.